What up, BookTube? Chelsea's Reads here. I've asked myself for a moment, so I'm gonna do this really quick before people get back here. We're supposed to have people over today for a social distance barbecue. Super fun with the times. So as always, we're gonna start off with a book haul. It's very, very small, just 2 books this time. And they were both gifts from that gift group that I'm part of. The first one is Until Friday Night by Abby Glines. I actually read this book a couple weeks ago, and I loved it so much that I wanted a physical copy. I put it on my Amazon wish list, and here it is. So this is the story about West and Maggie. Maggie watched her father murder her mother, and since then has chosen not to speak until she moves in with her cousin and meets Wes, who is a star quarterback on the football team. And his dad is dying of cancer, and then the two fall in love and both use each other to heal. It was a brilliant, beautiful book, and I think it was actually the first book I gave 5 stars this year too. The second book that I got this week was On the Corner of Love and Hate by Nina Bochy. This is a book about Emmanuel Peroni, and her father is the mayor of their town, and he assigns her to help her on the election trail, the campaign trail, for this man Cooper, who used to be a friend of hers, a former friend, and of course, I think it's an enemies to lovers kind of a story. Nina Bochy works very closely with Sylvain Rainyard, perhaps even being the same person, because I don't think Sylvain Rainyard is a pen name, and I don't know who they are yet. But Nina Bochy is very close with them, and she actually just recently came out with a book that's actually the 3rd book of this series, so I wanted to start with book 1. That was it for the haul. This week I am still working through this big omnibus of omnibus. I don't even know how to say that word, but of novellas. I only have 4 more to go for that one, and instead of sharing the individual novellas, because it's one big collection, I'm just going to share the collection when I finish it. So I should be finishing that this weekend. Each novella is only about 50 pages long, and I think I have 4 more novellas to go. So I've read quite a few of those this week. But as far as novels go, I did finish A Whole New World by Liz Braswell. This is the first book in the Twisted Tales series, although the series does not have to be read in any particular order. This was the first one that she wrote. As you can tell by the cover, it is a retelling of Aladdin. Each of the Twisted Tales take a Disney movie and ask a what-if question. This one is, what if Aladdin had never found the lamp? So when Aladdin goes to retrieve the lamp in the Cave of Wonders, Jafar successfully gets it from him, and Aladdin doesn't have the genie to aid him, and the whole Prince Ali thing never happens in this book. So this book I gave 2.5 stars. It wasn't written particularly well, but the plot actually is really good. Jasmine becomes a rebel leader and gangs up with the army of street rats to take down Jafar, who is a power-hungry sorcerer. Jafar wants to marry Jasmine in order to have a legitimate claim to the throne as sultan. He is also using dark magic and raises an army of ghouls to attack Agrabah. There's a lot of really graphic torture scenes, a man's head gets twisted clean off of his body. So it's not really child-friendly. But we actually been reading this book for a couple weeks as is part of a book club that I am with my 13-year-old cousin. So we just read it in chunks. And since she is still technically in school, she had to read some books from school, which kind of slowed us down in finishing this particular book. But she liked it a lot more than I did. For me, the writing was just not very good. Liz Bradwell does a tell instead of show. So we see this scene of Jafar going crazy, and then after this really graphic, really well-written scene, she was like, Jafar was a madman. Well, we saw that. So it wasn't particularly crazy about the writing style. The first 25% of the book is word for word the movie, but once it deviates from the plot, it does get interesting, but the new original characters never really grew, never really had much distinction between each other. So it was okay. Maybe I would suggest this for younger readers. We did start the next one, which is Sleeping Beauty, and I'm liking that one a lot better than this one, though it's still not spectacular, but they're just okay. The next book that I read this week was Envy by J.R. Ward. It is the 3rd book in the Fallen Angels series. The Fallen Angels series sees Jim Heron, who was a construction worker, die in by electrocution, and is chosen by some angels to become this protector of Earth. The angels are at war with this demon named Divina, and she has picked 7 souls that are either going to be corrupted or saved, and it is Jim's job to try to have them choose the correct choice. If they choose wrong, then Divina gets their soul, and it's like it's a war of who's gonna win. So in this particular book is the 3rd book, and Jim has seen a soul of a young woman, Sissy, and he's kind of become obsessed with her in this book. He pairs up with Thomas Del Vecchio, who we see from the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. This is where the series had started to cross over. So Vec is the son of a serial killer, notorious serial killer, and Jim has to try to lead him down on this path to not become like his father. There's a lot of, again, very dark sex scenes, but also some really hot sex scenes. The Fallen Angel series for me is, again, just like a 3-star read. This one I think I gave 3.5 stars. It was good, but really bothered me, and I'm trying not to get into like a huge rant about it, was the female in this. So her name was Riley, or her last name was Riley, whatever. She's also a police officer and was Vec's partner. This whole book was telling him, you're not your father, you're your own person. I know you're a good man. But when Davina tries to set him up, and there was very little evidence, there was just an earring that wasn't in evidence, and they thought maybe that Vec planted it and that maybe he was the killer. That one little piece of evidence, she suddenly was all on board, despite there being no other evidence. She thought maybe he was lying or really good at hiding things, and it was supposed to be a romance between Riley and Vec, and I just don't see it when there was so, just the seed of doubt was planted. She instantly was like, yep, he's a serial killer, and I fell for it. And I didn't appreciate that, and then that they got together in the end with very little time to kind of heal from that. Other than that, it was a really good book-ish. I mean, they're not great. I really liked the first book in the series, and the second book was just okay. And this one was a little bit better until that very end. Like I said, when Riley, totally betrayed him, and I didn't like that at all. But at this point, J.R. Ward has crossed over the 2 series. Her Black Dagger Brotherhood is about vampires, and I really like that one. So I'm just going to keep forging ahead with this series. The next book is actually what threw a wrench in this week's reading plan, because I was thinking I could read it in a day, and it ended up taking me 2 days to read. And that is Heart Song by V.C. Andrews. This is the 2nd book in the Logan series. I read the first book, Melody, a few weeks ago. If you would like that review, you're going to have to find the previous video. I actually don't remember what week I read this in, but it was close. So something that we don't talk about a lot with V.C. Andrews, and I think we need to talk about, is the beautiful step backs on here. Look at that cover. It's just, I think they're really well done, and all of the classic V.C. Andrews titles have that. So Heart Song continues the story of Melody Logan, who is now living in Cape Cod with family that she never knew she had because her mom abandoned her and then died. And her uncle thinks she's this sex crazy girl because her mom was a huge flirt. She's still trying to find out who her real father is. She thinks it's the hermit painter guy. And then when she finds out it's not, she's sexually attracted to him. It was I seriously thought I missed something. She's also in love with her cousin, Carrie, but Carrie's not actually her cousin. They found out that they're 3rd cousins, so they thought it was okay for them to have a relationship because they're 3rd cousins, not 1st cousins. So they have sex, and it's really disgusting. She stands up to her evil grandmother and goes and visits her actual grandmother in the nursing home and starts to piece together her past and finds her actual grandfather. And that's it. It's a lot of family drama. Melody keeps saying she's super mature, and she's really not. She's still very much into fantasy and kind of stuff. But I am liking this series of V.C. Andrews a lot more than I liked a couple of her previous ones, and I think it's just because I took such a long break between. I binged a lot of V.C. Andrews at one time, and I just kind of got sick of it. So I am liking the series. There's only one more book with Melody. There's 3 more in the series, but Melody's actually only featured in the next book, and then the last 2 books are prequels. Because Melody looks like her dead cousin Laura, to the point Carrie admits that he used to spy on his twin sister Laura through the floor in the attic. He would look down into her bedroom and watch what she did with her boyfriend, which is disgusting. So Carrie Melody thinks that people are comparing her to her mother. She looks like her mother, but she also looks like her dead cousin. She's afraid that nobody is seeing her for her. This whole book. And the last book that I read this week was How to Marry a Millionaire Vampire by Carolyn Sparks. I think I've said it in the past, but this is one of my absolute favorite books of all time. And rereading it, like, this is maybe the third or fourth time I've read it, but it's not been 10 years since I've read it, but it's been close to 10 years since I've last read it. And I still gave this 5 stars. It lived up to my expectations and my reminiscing my remembrances of it. So How to Marry a Millionaire Vampire is the first book in the Love at Stake series by Carolyn Sparks, and it is about vampire and scientist Roman Dragonesti. He is a scientist that he created a synthetic blood, so they're like good vampires that don't drink from mortals. So the synthetic blood is supposed to replace that. He sells it in bottles, and he has started making a fusion cuisine where he can now flavor the blood. So he has like a blood light, he has a chocolate blood, and he has a bubbly blood, which is like a champagne blood. And then he is constantly trying to develop these things for vampires to be like good people. And in this one, he breaks a fang off because he bit into a sex doll because they were trying to put the synthetic blood in the doll so they can still get that bite in there. But he ends up breaking a tooth, and he has to go find a dentist. And of course, it's a mortal named Shauna. Shauna Whalen is in the witness protection program after watching some Russians kill her friend, and now they're threatening to kill her. It's later revealed that the Russians are actually also vampires, and of course the mortal nemesis of Roman. So he takes Shauna in under his protection, is trying to hide the fact that he's a vampire, and of course they're falling in love. Roman was formerly a monk and believes God has abandoned him because of all the atrocious acts he has done as a vampire, and then doesn't believe he's worthy of Shauna's love. But that all sounds really cliche, but this is so good. Like, it's very fluffy, it's hilarious. I mean, like, the guy breaks his tooth off in a sex doll, like, and it was written a long time ago, not a long time ago, but it was written back in 2005, so the things that are cliche now, like, this is like the era that they became cliche, so I think it's a pass. This is a signed copy. Saying Vamps Rule. It's signed by Carolyn Sparks because I love her. She's such a nice lady. Like, I'm friends with her on Facebook. We chat. I send her Christmas cards sometimes. I cannot recommend the series enough. I believe there's 13 books. They each follow a different couple with this cast of characters that you continually see. And again, rereading it, I knew the jokes and I still laughed out loud. I was so taken with this book. The romance is really good. The sex scene is hot. The humor is on point. It's a couple dated jokes in there, Gregory saying "oh snap," because that was a thing in 05, but people really don't say "oh snap" anymore. I mean, you'll know what it is, but it's not as prevalent. But other than that, it has a really good, like I said, ensemble cast of characters. It's a very cozy, quick romance. I read it again, it took me 2 days. I thought it was only going to take me a day, especially because it was a reread. But I highly recommend this book. It was so good. Even after reading it multiple times. And then that was it for me this week, guys. Like I said, it took some time to get through that I didn't think I'd have to, but it is what it is. I'm a total idiot. I totally forgot that then the other book that I got this week was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. It's a Hunger Games prequel about President Snow and how he became so corrupted. It's actually a lot thicker than I thought it would be. And I did get it in hardcover because the rest of my Hunger Games books are in hardcover. I love the Hunger Games. And I'm really hoping that this is going to live up to expectations. I have halted my TBRQ, and I have already started reading it. I'm about 40 pages in. And my biggest complaint so far is that Snow's first name is Coriolanus. It's that Shakespeare play that Tom Hiddleston was in. It's his first name, and I don't know how to pronounce it, and that's really obnoxious. But so far, he lives in the capital, but his family lost all of their wealth from the war. and he's poor, so he's masquerading as a rich man in the capital. Young man, he is about to leave his schooling, and he is in charge of the female. He's supposed to mentor the female tribute from District 12, and she's kind of like a loon. So I'm excited. This is obviously what I'm going to be reading the next couple days. It is pretty thick, but I'm hoping again to finish it in today's not the weekend yet. So I'm hoping to finish this by the weekend. And then I will get back to my regularly scheduled queue, which includes a couple retellings, another supernatural, and then back to Night Vale is what's on the queue. So like I said, I have a weird cycle that I read my books in, so you're going to start seeing more sequels, as you saw. Today we had some sequels and stuff. But I am really looking forward to reading this, and I will tell you my review on it next week. Thanks for watching, guys.